Okay, welcome back with Ben and me. And our guest this evening is Paula Harris, who is a well known journalist, especially in Europe, and is an expert on UFOs as well, and a new professor at the new International Metaphysical University on the subject of exopolitics. And we're talking about who knows what in the realm of UFOs. We've been talking about the Vatican and the United Nations. And Ben has the next question.
And that I do. Do you think our leaders are preparing us for some kind of revelation?
Well, it depends on who R is. The United States is really behind in disclosure because the UK or England has released 17,000 pages in files in the last year, and they've released their UFO files. And when they did that, one of the files talked about Milton Torres, Colonel Milton Torres, who lives in Florida, who in 1957 was ordered to shoot down a UFO over England. So through England, we got this American serviceman who, after all this time, can talk about the fact that he was ordered to shoot down a UFO. So you shouldn't be asking if UFOs are real, if this guy was ordered to shoot him down. And England has released its files, so has Canada, so has Denmark, and just now Brazil has released their UFO files. America has not even dealt with the subject yet. Except that we have so many people in the military who have come forth, not only Edgar Mitchell, but when Stephen Greer did the Disclosure Project in 2001 in May, he had all kinds of military people, pilots, radar specialists that were involved in this.
All right, let me ask you the $64,000 question here. What are they afraid of?
I think it's economic. I think every problem we have on this planet is money. I think it's economic. I don't think they're afraid of the people freaking out.
That's what Ed Mitchell told us, yeah.
Yeah, the people aren't going to, the people are okay, especially the young people, they're okay. And it would be wondrous if we knew we had cosmic brothers and sisters. But, when you're talking about free energy or zero-point energy or things that are flying around with electromagnetic energy or technology that's so advanced that you can't possibly, we don't want to give it to anybody, that I think that keeps the secret secret. And then there's another thing, too. If you admit that you've been lying all these years, it's very difficult. It's like a tapestry. You pull a string and the whole thing just comes apart. So I really don't think that it's the position of somebody like Obama or anybody to talk about this. I think it has to be the people. I think disclosure is happening. I think the people know.
Well, let me tell you what happened to me. I don't want to get your reaction to it. And older listeners have heard this several times on the air, but I've never mentioned it on CBS. When I was down, and this seems to me a lot more ominous than just the economy. I mean, I certainly don't have anything to do with the economy. I certainly don't have any money. So I was down speaking at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, and I went out at one point before I came home to get some souvenirs for my sons, Ben and Jonathan, who are, everybody's interested in UFOs in this house. And I went out to the Little Alien, which is that little place out in Rachel.
Yeah, I've been there.
Sure, oh yeah, who has? And they have the little souvenirs and all. Anyway, I went out there. So I got to that point in the road where the road kind of forks off to the left in the middle of nowhere, and there were some trees and some cars parked underneath the trees. And on the left was this sign called Extraterrestrial Highway, which the state puts there for tourists. So I figured, well, I'll take a picture of this. So I took a picture that wouldn't come out, and then I'm looking on the right, and there is this U.S. government SUV with the government plates, and the guy's looking at me. And so, being an old-time news hound, I'm an old reporter, like you. Not old. I'm not. No, you're not old. I am old. But for many years, I've been a reporter.
Good catch.
Picked up the camera, and the guy looked at me like he was going to curdle Coca-Cola. Don't do it. So I start off down toward Rachel. They start to follow me, and the speed limit on that road is 70 miles an hour. They're following me. It's at least 80, and they're about 10 inches behind my bumper for about 5 miles. And I'm a veteran, I know what scared is, and I was scared. They disappeared after about 5 miles. I got to Little Alien, and there was nobody in there. It was a Wednesday morning, and the woman said, "What happened to you?" And I told her. And she knew who I was. And she said, "Oh, you were taking pictures of the park and ride for Area 51. I said, "Excuse me?" So the bus comes out from the base about 13 miles away behind the mountains, picks up the people who parked those cars there, takes them in, brings them out in the afternoon. I said, well, what? So thousands of people must take pictures of that sign. And she said, well, yeah, but they ran your plate, found out you are a paranormal guy who, writes about this stuff, put two and two together, and figured that you were going to bother the people after checking their license plates. So I said, oh, brilliant. So, again, if that hadn't happened to me, I wouldn't believe it.
Well, they checked your license plate, and they were afraid you were going to do a story. And if you had taken a picture, you would have gotten the license plates to the people that work at Area 51.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, but you weren't thinking that way because you
Absolutely
were a tourist.
not. I just wanted to,
you were a tourist.
get some souvenirs and go home,
Well, what does that tell you? That area is highly secure.
Yeah, and I had often suspected that the UFO stories were cover-ups for, secret aircraft. Now, I'm a veteran of the U.S. military. I even did some work in intelligence. I know a couple of things, how it works, but that threw me. It really threw me. And I don't. It just seems that there's something a lot more ominous behind this. That and I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I mean, I don't know. And I'll tell you something else that happened. Whenever Ben and I do shows like this, we hunker down because weird things start to happen. I mean, we've had guests who have asked us to take down the podcast because they've gotten pressure from high up in the government, even the White House. I'm not going to hesitate to say. So, I mean, do you really think this is all there is to it?
A really great show there because you must have some very credible people, and that's what we need is people that are credible, the people that are, wanting to deal with this and tell the truth. And so you must have some great people.
That was on our local station in New England. It has about a 20-mile radius. Heaven only knows who's listening to this. That's CBS.
Yeah, but I think it's time. Yeah, I think you think it's time. Our children think it's time. I mean, if you have an astronaut like Edgar Mitchell, and then Gordon Cooper was another one.
Sure.
These are very credible people. I'm very involved with the ex-Minister of Defense of Canada, Paul Hellyer, who read Corso's book, and he's going to release a book talking about the importance of national security issues and the UFO situation that should be talked about, should be dealt with. And so, what's wrong with talking about this stuff? What's wrong with, discussing it? And we know it's real, so let's not even play that game. And, it might be wondrous for us to join a cosmic community. Well,
I think you're right. I think that, we've learned to deal with the Klingons and the Planet of the Apes. I mean, it's not going to bother anybody that they have, that they might be aliens at some other planet somewhere. But that's the big question in my mind. When Ben and I work in the paranormal, we're dealing entirely, in our opinion, with the multiple worlds theory of quantum mechanics. All these so-called ghosts and all these different things. To us, and this works for us, we're dealing with multiple worlds. I can see where people would be comfortable with, and I want to get your reaction to this, comfortable with the idea that you've got people, maybe even hostiles, on some other planet far away. But what if they're in a parallel world right next to you all the time, so to speak? That is a scary, scary concept. We see it all the time. In our opinion, it's real. You call them demons or parasites, as we do, or alien, whatever words you want to use. In our language is not actually up to talking about this stuff. I mean, I think that's what they're really afraid of. I think they know all about it. I think they're learning to use the parallel world thing, and I think they don't want us knowing about it. What say you?
Well, no, I think, everybody goes through the question, are they good, are they bad, I think they just are. I don't think there's any good and bad. Everybody has an agenda. Whether we have the agenda, look at it really realistically. Human beings are a lot sicker and a lot are, after all, what just happened at Fort Hood. I mean, pedophiles.
Oh, good Lord.
And here we are talking about aliens, whether they're good and bad. Whatever the aliens, whatever the technology is, that they can travel among the stars and they can go from planet to planet, is something that we should all want to do.
Sure.
And I'm whatever technology it takes, it doesn't mean they're highly spiritual. So I'm not going there. But whatever technology it takes, they're not spending time killing each other on some planet.
Yeah.
And so, that's the way I look at it. If they wanted to destroy us, if they wanted to invade us, they would have done it a long time ago, because most of the problems and most of the sightings and most of the radar returns were during the the atomic bomb testing in White Sands. I think when they saw us doing that, they thought, uh-oh, these kids have have learned to do very dangerous things with atomic energy, with atomic bombs, with so forth. And that's when we had Roswell. That's when we had other crashes in that area. That's when we had sightings. And if you look at that, if they were really worried about us, they would have done us in right there. So I
well,
think
maybe. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me just remind everyone, too, before we go to our next break, that we've got a really cool instant feedback feature. If you're listening on a computer, you can just write into us, whatever. And again, our phone number, 248-545-7685, here on Behind the Paranormal. And we are working, as I say, on a toll-free number. We'll get back to you next week on that. Now, Paula, what if they're not from other planets?
Well, I think there are the interdimensional beings, intradimensional.
That's what I'm getting.
I don't think they're all from other planets.
Well, they could be, but I mean, it's just you could use multiple worlds to get here from somewhere. It's just there are all sorts of possibilities.
Well, my latest book is called All the Above because it's dedicated to George Neri Coast to Coast. Because he's asked me that question. He goes, are they interplanetary, interdimensional, or are they paranormal?
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's all the above. It's all of it.
Yeah. I'm with you. I think that's right. Yeah. Okay. All right. All I think of is the line from Taken, where the guy, I can't remember his name, he says, who did we lose? Okay,
No
we got you. Okay. The idea was, the government people are asking him about the aliens. What do they want? He says, well, you remember E.T.? You've all seen E.T.? He says, well, they're nowhere near that nice. I'm reluctant to trust entities we run into in our work, and I'm just as reluctant to trust somebody who is an alien. Why should we trust them?
Well, first of all, we're not even in that situation. But second of all, I'd like to know what we're dealing with. I mean, I believe that when people start channeling some of these they call aliens, they're not channeling that. They're channeling some entity from another dimension that they're calling alien. So how in the world are you telling all this apart? It's such what I call cosmic minestrone.
Yeah.
It's such a mixed up mess of who is it that's there. So how are we going to make judgments on we don't even know what we're dealing with? I have no idea.
Sure.
After 30 years.
How about abductions? I mean, that doesn't indicate very friendly attitude.
Okay, well, I was very close friends with Dr. John Mack, and for me, Dr. John Mack, who was a Harvard University psychiatrist, was the most intelligent as far as dealing with the whole contact scenario. And he had a theory that on some level that this was the agenda was for some kind of hybridization program. Well, why would they do that? I mean, are we going to last on this planet? Or is it that it's an evolution for humanity? I have no idea. But he did not seem to think that it was a malevolent presence. However, it would be nice if they would ask the permission of the people they would take. So we've got a whole bunch of situations.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we got to wrap it up for a break, and we'll be right back on Behind the Paranormal with Paula Harris. Stay with us.
Psychic radio. 24 hours a day. Reach out from beyond to your ears. On the web now. Log on to psychiconair.com. Your spiritual well-being is our concern. This is Psychic Radio. Powered online by AOL at psychiconair.com. We know you're listening.
He wakes up in the morning, does his teeth bite to eat, and he's rolling. He never changes a thing. The week ends, the week begins. She thinks we look at each other, wondering what the other is thinking, but we exchange, no time to exchange. When all the little lambs are marching, red and black and tender waving, they all do it the same. They all do it the same way. Counting down the tempting my thoughts about sweet tooth tortured by rain last program a cup sing the corners of loose end, cat on the fence could not to a fan, cat take these chances, place them in the box and take quiet their time, lights down you up and down. Lights down you up and down.
Psychic Radio.
We know you're listening. Back to Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno.
Our new number, 248-545-7685.
PsychicOnAir.com.
Okay, welcome back. We're here with our guest, Paula Harris, journalist of European background and also gets around all over the place, a tremendous writer and a teacher at IMU, International Metaphysical University, and all sorts of great stuff, and we're having a terrific conversation about UFOs. Now, Ben's going to start off our second half hour here with a question.
I know. All right. Have you yourself ever had a UFO experience?
No, I would love to have one. I've been to Area 51. I've been places. I've looked up in the sky. I have photographed something strange over Area 51, though, just outside there where the mailbox is.
Oh, yeah, I've been to that mailbox, yeah.
Yeah, you remember the mailbox?
Yeah, it was after they finished chasing me, yeah.
Well, yeah, well, you were in the wrong spot at the wrong time. But
Oh, gosh,
anyway, no,
I guess.
I'd love to have something, but it isn't so much that I, have had no experience. I've talked to top-level people, and there's no doubt in my mind that this is real. This is a real phenomenon.
Yeah. Let me tell you what happened with that. I don't mean to be talking to you because you're supposed to be our guest, but this is all so fascinating. In '03, and Ben was there, he remembers, Bud Hopkins and I were on the same docket, speaking at the paranormal conference in West Virginia, and he called me aside and he said, hey, take a look at this. And he had a photo album of things that had been reportedly done to people when they'd been abducted. So the scoops and the usual, apparent injuries to the body, possible implants and this. And I said, Bud, this is exactly what I see in a number of the more extreme poltergeist cases. And I'm wondering, could these entities be the same? We have sort of a unified theory of the paranormal that Ben and I kind of work on, and it seems to hold together and serve us very well. But, the questions arise here, and they just never seem to end. What are we – I just think – I don't know. I'm not as trusting as some people in what we're dealing with, what they want. And I wanted to get into the areas of the more fringe opinions. And I do not necessarily share these, but it does make you wonder. David Icke and his idea of these reptilians, the idea that we are being farmed by these things and that they come across as nice guys, but they're actually some kind of big lizard. What's your opinion on some of the more fringe
first of
opinions?
all, let me say that in order not to trust, you have to know what's going on. I haven't the slightest idea what's going on. I'm just the reporter, and I have interviewed David Icke. He's fascinating. I interviewed him in Italy. And what is my opinion? I think we do not know what's going on, and that's why I hesitate to make any judgments on what's going on. But the thing is that is it possible that we are visited by different races? Absolutely. Why would they be doing what they do? I have no idea. I'm sure they have an agenda. I always say it's really interesting about abduction because with abduction, they bring you back. If they took you away permanently and they never brought you back, that would be a whole other story. But they tend to bring you back. And I'm thinking, okay, well, this seems to me, as a scientist, if you have a scientific mind, that they're doing some kind of experimentation on a very primitive race. So, what is the conclusion? I have no idea. But for all the negative, there's a whole bunch of people that say they are more evolved. They have come back with an understanding, a greater empathy, and have become more spiritual. So you got a whole bunch of guys that are saying that it's and John Mack told me this, that it has been a beneficial to their life, and there's a whole group that are just totally terrified and feel like guinea pigs.
Yeah.
I kind of stay away from the contact scenario in that I'm not good at it. Paul, I'm good at the military. I do military intelligence and astronaut interviews, and but I will interview. I have interviewed, for instance, David Icke. I've interviewed Daryl Sims, who also has his own ideas. I've interviewed a lot of people, and what I do is I just do the interview. Whatever they tell me, and and I let the people decide. I figure people are intelligent enough. But you're dealing in a paranormal range, which is, all kinds of weirdness.
Yeah. Well, we have ghost cases that turn into UFO cases. I mean, there's no end to this. But yeah, as you say, the fact is we get down to it, we don't really know for sure. Okay.
Actually, I have a question for you. You mentioned that you've interviewed the astronauts. Who have you interviewed?
Okay, besides being a very good friend of Edgar Mitchell's, he's done so many interviews for me. Clark McClellan worked at NASA for 22 years.
Mm-hmm.
He worked on the Apollo program. He worked on the landing on the moon. And he has said to me that there has been contact of the astronauts in outer space. And he's very clear. And if you look up Clark McClellan, and his website is stargatechronicles.org, he will talk about the different incidences where astronauts have had encounters in space and craft following them and the space shuttle. And just the whole entire, there's so much film footage out there. Clark I've known for 9 years, and the only reason that I even believe him is because I flew down to Orlando, Florida, and spent 4 or 5 days with him, and he showed me, some things and took me to for a tour of NASA. So, these people are trying to get the truth out. What's his name? Cooper also, he had a sighting where the thing actually landed, and they filmed it. So we're talking about, and these guys have not made any decisions as to whether they're good, bad, or whatever. They've said that we have had contact in space. Well, that's normal. But let me give you another scenario. You know that Branson from Virgin Records and what's his name, Burt Rutan, who does composite planes, are starting a spaceport. They're starting a spaceport down near Roswell.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, yeah.
Can you imagine what's going to happen when you send civilians in space and they see this stuff?
That's going to that'll make for an interesting show.
Oh, I'll say,
absolutely.
Because you're sending civilians into space.
Yeah.
And they're gonna see these things flying around these commercial whatevers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be interesting the next couple of years.
All right. Well, we've done a couple of shows. I don't know. You done, Ben? I don't want to.
Yeah.
Stop. Okay. We've done a couple of shows on the paranormal's influence on human origins, and of course, you get into the Van Daniken thing. About who are these people? What did they influence our genetics and all this stuff? People are familiar with that, and we have great reactions to those shows. And I would ask you what your opinions might be on that. I mean, it seems as though whether these are extraterrestrials, extra-dimensionals, whatever, what sort of influence, in your opinion, might they have had? And there is a question here, which we'll get back to after our break, that will lead into that as far as what the Vatican might know. But did you believe that there might have been early influences on our race?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, who were the Greek gods? I mean,
well, yeah, exactly.
History forever. And I also was on the island of Sardinia, and they've discovered these huge bones of these giants that used to live on the island of Sardinia. Well, these 10, 11-foot, 12-foot tall people, who are they? And, but traditional archaeology doesn't want to touch it because they don't know how to fit it into what's already there.
Tell me about it. We have all kinds of problems with archaeologists. Well, the question arises, too, who were these nasty little backdoor deities who demanded human sacrifice?
Yeah, I mean, who are, that's true. There's so many questions, but you know what I recommend? That we study it, and that's why I hope this gets into a university, Paul. I mean, if you do scholarly study of this stuff, then you come up with an intelligent opinion.
Well, it seems
some kind of background.
exactly. Well, hopefully, International Metaphysical University will be doing that, and I'm deeply impressed by the quality of the professors, such as yourself, and the idea that it's probably going to get accredited. I think they're going to pull it off, be the first accredited metaphysical school since Socrates. I think that's great.
Well, finally, we'll become balanced because we'll have that part of education, which has always been out of education. We never talked about this stuff in school.
No, absolutely not. No, it was Eurocentric. Never mind, Terracentric.
I know.
Exactly.
So,
no, go ahead.
I think it's great. I think it's wonderful, and I've been teaching exopolitics for already online for Dr. Michael Sala, and it's worked. My students are in Africa, in Belgium, I have one in China. People all over the world are interested in this subject matter, and it's a matter of scholarly study. It's not just, internet gossip or, what your friend next door tells you. You have to start reading some of this.
Oh, it's true. Okay. Well, we're going to be coming up on a break soon, and we're going to get into some of these emails here that we have for you. And I'm still not convinced that we're dealing with something that's really friendly. But again, we'll see as time approaches. And I also want to talk to you a little bit about 2012. Okay, so again, we're going into a commercial break here. You're listening to Behind the Paranormal on Psychic Radio, powered by CBS. Stay with us.
Join April Lugo for Across the Veil, Tuesday and Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern. Across the Veil promises to be a unique experience featuring connections and communications with those who are across the veil. Receive guidance and wisdom from the angels, masters, teachers, and guides. Hear messages from family and loved ones who have preceded us across the veil. Join April Lugo for Across the Veil Tuesday and Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern on Psychic Radio, Now the Sky. Listen in Boston on 98.5 HD3, Detroit on 99.5 HD3, and Seattle on 96.5 HD3. Online at newskyradio.com, AOL Radio, and Yahoo Launchcast. The Sky, New Horizons, No Boundaries. Powered by CBS Radio.
In your eyes, the color them wonderful, stop me and steal my breath. And emeralds from mountains and thrust towards the sky, never revealing their depth. And tell me that we belong together, dress it out with the trappings of love. I'll be captivated, I'll hang from your lips instead of the gallows of heartache that hang from above. And I'll be your crying shoulder, I'll be love suicide. And rain falls angry on the tin roof as we lie awake in my bed. And you're my survival, you're my living proof. My love is alive and not dead. And tell me that we belong together. Trust it out with the trappings of love. I'll be captivated, I'll hang from your lips instead of the gallows of heartache that hang from above. And I'll be your crying shoulder, I'll be love suicide. And I'll be better when I'm older. I'll be the greatest fan of your
Psychic Radio.
We know you're listening. Back to Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno. Call now.
Our new number, 248-545-7685.
PsychicOnAir.com.
Okay, welcome back, and our guest is Paula Harris, journalist par excellence and UFO expert who's talked to them all, as far as the military people are concerned and everybody else. Now, we have a question here, Paula, from Mary G. in Seattle. And the first part we kind of dealt with earlier in the show, but Ben's going to take us through that.
All right. Mary G. from Seattle writes, how much does the Vatican really know about alien life? Do their records include information on ancient UFO sightings and contacts?
I think that they're very interested. I think anybody, any major or institution would be very interested in this. And the fact that they have the best equipped observatory in Arizona should tell you something. I mean, they have an incredible observatory in Arizona that looks
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, they do.
Huh. Where is it?
They moved some Indians off a reservation to build it. I think it's on Mount Taylor.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's yeah. So
Wow.
It's got multi-million-dollar, fantastic telescopes looking out at the heavens, and I think just if you look at the fact that they were historically the major political structure of the Middle Ages and before anything, if you look at the Renaissance paintings on my website, I have Renaissance paintings. They're filled with UFOs. So, the thing is that somebody's curious, somebody's interested.
Yeah.
And I think, that would be normal, wouldn't it, though?
I would think
that
so.
would be normal, yeah.
Well, they've come a long way from Galileo. I got to say that.
For sure, yeah. So I think they do know. But I don't know firsthand because I've never seen their documents. But for them to make that pronouncement on the anniversary of Fatima last year was major, I think.
Okay. Well, keeping our Roman theme here, we have a question on UFOs and the Virgin Mary from Marla J. in Florida.
And Marla writes, this may sound crazy, but you guys seem to be able to deal with anything.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't really know about anything, but today I am a healthcare professional, but I'm convinced my experience was real. When I was 8, I had a vision of the Blessed Virgin Mary. It was incredibly beautiful, and I'll never forget the feeling. Overhead was what today would be called a triangle UFO. What does your guest say about that?
Well, I have no idea because I wasn't present, so it's very hard for me to say anything. However, is it possible that whatever's visiting could manifest itself in our religion? In other words, it would be better for them to be manifesting themselves in something we could recognize. I have a slide of a cross over St. Petersburg, Florida, a cross, but there are 6 UFOs in a cross 2 months before Katrina. So what is the formation of a cross by UFOs over St. Petersburg 2 months before Katrina mean? I have no idea. I know this photo is amazing, and maybe it has, whatever it is, has to manifest itself in our belief system.
Yeah, well, that's funny. Susan Shepard, one of our guests, Susan, of course, who also teaches at IMU. Anybody teaches at IMU, right? She happened to point out that, culturally, we interpret these things according to our own understanding, whether it be UFOs or cryptids or whatever, and we'll put our modern labels on them. And so I think you're right. Certainly something that might have been a divine manifestation to the ancients, we would call a UFO.
Well, we can also add that Fatima is a big mystery. For people who know about Fatima, they say the sun came out of the sky, was whirling around, and completely dried everybody off, and there had been a rainstorm. Well, I don't think the sun can actually come out of the sky, but a disk could come out of the sky and
Sure.
could be whirling around. And maybe somebody knows for sure that's what it is. And that's so weird that he would do that particular press release on the anniversary of Fatima.
Indeed. Okay, well, I'm afraid we're coming up to be flat out of time here, Paula, and thank you. It's been a great conversation. We're going to continue this, I hope, on a number of shows to come. And again, good luck at the International Metaphysical University, where both you and I are teaching, intermetu.com, and also PaulaHarris.com, Paola Harris, Harris.com, and all sorts of educational opportunities from Paula. And good luck on your trip to Germany. We'll talk to you real soon.
All right. Thanks a lot for having me on the show.
Okay, very good. All right, now we're going to be winding down here, but we have our final announcements. Hopefully we're going to get our podcasts up and running here. We have 84 different shows behindtheparanormal.com. That's our show website, and there should be plenty of opportunity for you to download those and get information about our upcoming shows and our past guests and what we're working on ourselves, Ben and me. NewEnglandGhosts.com. That's our personal website as well. And we have a training program we're thinking about because we are frustrated by getting in contact with people who are so far away that we cannot help them directly. People who seem to have problems if they're in Australia or somewhere else.
If we had the funds and the means, we could definitely.
Well, have faith,
justify
my
the
son.
end.
Have
Yeah.
faith.
Yes.
Anything can happen.
Yes.
Okay. So,
so many thanks to our producer, Will Kosnick, and we'll see you next week. We'll see you next Sunday at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, right here on CBS Radio, when our guest will be Danish paranormal expert Shane Eno.
No relation.
I was going to say there's
Yeah.
no relation. For a discussion on paranormal research in Europe, which is quite different from what it is here because of the extreme time difference, that we will be pre-recording the show. So send your questions in advance to Ben at behindtheparanormal.com.
okay, and don't forget to check out our Saturday show on 12:40 a.m. in southeastern New England. Details at behindtheparanormal.com. So, I forgot about our reporters. I wanted to tell you we have 2 new reporters, people who are going to be, I consider very reliable, and they're going to be submitting information about paranormal phenomena they run into in their area, whether it be cryptozoological, UFOs, anything of that kind. And we'll be talking to them on the air from now and then. And it's Larry Clark from the beautiful Hudson Valley of New York State, and Cindy Marlowe from Kansas City, reporting from 2 different areas of the country. And we're hoping very soon to get them on with some stories they may be tracking down for us. I'm very impressed with these people. I think this is good. And we do invite anyone who is serious about this, who can gather some information to make sure the information is accurate that they might gather on cases, to let us know. Again, behindtheparanormal.com. You can check out our reporters website on that. And we can take it from there. So we have, again, information on the training program that we'll be putting together. Watch our site for that. And we're going to leave you today with a quote from Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. Kubler-Ross, yep. No, not Kubler-Kraus. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, expert on death and dying. People are like stained glass windows. They sparkle and shine when the sun is out, but when the darkness sets in, their true beauty is revealed only if there is light from within.
It's kind of dark.
We're gonna, yeah. Well, it is. Only if you're looking, I guess, outside the stained glass window in.
Oh well.
Anyway,
yeah.
but that's our thought for the week.
All right. Anyway, well then, we'll see you next week, and keep your stick on the ice.
That's right. Have a good week.
Psychic Radio. 24 hours a day. Reach out from beyond to your ears. On the web now. Log on to psychiconair.com. Your spiritual well-being is our concern. This is Psychic Radio. Powered online by AOL at psychiconair.com. We know you're listening. From our universe to yours, this is Psychic Radio. We know you're listening. Log on to psychiconair.com.
A man decides after 70 years that what he goes there for is to unlock the door. Well, those around him criticize and sleep. can walk. I see you, my friend, and touch your face again. Miracles will happen as we dream. No, we're never gonna survive unless we are a little crazy. Other people walking through my head. One of them's got a gun to shoot the other one. And yet together they were friends at school. Survive unless we are a little. No, we'll never survive unless we get a little bit. Oh, darling, in a sky full of people, only someone to fly. Isn't that crazy? In a world full of people, only someone to fly. Isn't that crazy? Crazy. In a heaven of people, there's only someone to fly. Isn't that crazy? Oh, but we're never gonna survive unless we get a little crazy. No, we're never gonna survive unless we are a little.
The universe is ever expanding. Psychic Radio, psychiconair.com, WYCD HD3 Detroit, KJAQ HD3 Seattle, WBMX HD3 Boston, and on AOL Radio and Yahoo Launchcast. Powered by CBS Radio. Psychic Radio.